there, warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive, and I'm Milind Deora. Well, viewers, Donald Trump is, of course, going to be back, it appears, in the White House, and the internet can't stay calm. After a rather stressful battle, the netizens are now adding a touch of humor and wit to their historic moment in American elections. Well, the internet is now being flooded with memes, and we have picked some of the choicest, the nicest, the wittiest and the most creative ones for you, which really does help in summing up the entire US polls. We are going to get you some of these memes, and this one on your screens is very interesting. Remember, everyone's talking about the similarities that we have between India and America. You have POTUS aayega, POTUS jayega, Lotus wahi rahega. In fact, since we are talking about India and the parallels which are there with America, I'm going to be handing it over to our group editor-in-chief, Navika Kumar, because she's got a special guest with her, someone who's also waded in after Trump's victory today. Navika, over to you.
Thank you very much, Meghna. And guess who's joining me tonight? Joining me right here on Times Now is Milind Deora, the man who's set the headlines, not just in India, but also in the United States of America. Thank you, Milind, for joining me in the middle of your rally. Well, Maharashtra elections come way after the US elections, and I'm glad that you're balancing the two right here in Mumbai. Milind, you have said, as a keen follower of US politics, I'm not surprised to see Republicans poised to win the White House and the US Congress. Scaring voters by claiming democracy is under threat is a fear-based strategy, not one of hope. It didn't work in India. It's not worked in the United States. So, Milind, you're seeing parallels between the Indian elections for Lok Sabha and the American presidential elections?
Well, absolutely. And I have no real preference on the US side. I have friends, in fact, on both sides, Navika, on the Democratic side and the Republican side, in fact, even on the independent side. And as you're probably aware, my late father had very close ties with both parties in the US, followed US politics very closely, played a very key role cutting across parties, governments on both sides of the aisle, both sides of both countries, to work to deepen ties between both the democracies. But I do see many parallels in the way the campaign was conducted in the US and in India. And I think that sometimes voters move beyond fear. Spreading fear is very different from spreading hope. And I think that in India as well, there was a fake narrative that was very prevalent during the Lok Sabha elections. And I would often say, when people the opponents would say that the constitution is being weakened, I said the fact that a humble tea seller could rise to become the Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy tells you that our democracy has never been more vibrant, tells you that our constitution has never been stronger. So these fake narratives in India were busted, I think, during the Haryana election, and I'm pretty confident that that trend will continue in the Maharashtra elections as well.
Milind, we have a tweet now coming in from Trinamool Congress's Rajya Sabha member Saket Gokhale, who says that probably the Indian voters are smarter than the voters in America, simply because I think he's alluding to the fact that the BJP did not get a clear majority. How would you respond to this tweet by Saket Gokhale?
I have no idea what he's tweeted. All I'll say is this, that I think that as someone who considers himself a classical liberal, myself, I think the liberal movement has unfortunately been hijacked by far left elements. And this is something which I do see is true of the US and true of India. That the liberal movement really represented freedom of speech and open sharing of ideas. In the US, for instance, they have another problem called woke culture, which is cancel culture. Someone says something, alleges something, you're automatically cancelled. This is not something that encourages free speech. And I think that that's the trend that hurt the Democrats in the US. And in my opinion, in India too, certain parties, certainly the Congress party, which at one point was a centrist party in India, has now moved very far to the left, economically, socially, politically. And people don't necessarily like that. Most people tend to stay on the center. center right, center left. And I think that those who call themselves liberal, the self-proclaimed liberals, they have a serious challenge before themselves. And they unfortunately fail to introspect. Election after election, they fail to introspect. So I think it's a good time for those who are on the center right, because they have a situation where the self-proclaimed liberals fail to introspect. And in fact, many classical liberals who were traditionally center left today find themselves center right, because the entire spectrum has shifted.
Well, let me ask you. Trump supporters were called garbage by Joe Biden. In 2016, Hillary Clinton had described Trump supporters as a basket of deplorables. Even in India, we've seen a tendency on part of the people in this space, the so-called lobby, the so-called India Alliance. They've labeled BJP supporters, for instance, as Rakshas. Is it really a lot of parallels that you're seeing between what happened in India and what we are seeing in America happening today?
Yeah, I do see a lot of parallels. I do see a lot of economic parallels more than anything else, because I see that both President Trump and Prime Minister Modi, what they've done is they've essentially re-looked at India's supply chains, America's supply chains, the fact that we were over-dependent, over-reliant on countries like China, and that we're bringing manufacturing back to our countries. In fact, I would say Prime Minister Modi was several years ahead of even President Trump. Prime Minister Modi launched the Make in India initiative, I think, in 2014. President Trump came to power in 2016, when he essentially launched a similar Make in America initiative to bring manufacturing back. So there are similar parallels where I think President Trump, Prime Minister Modi don't shy away from critiquing our neighbors. There's nothing personal about it, but the fact that we have to bring jobs back to our countries, if someone gets branded as being nationalistic, so be it. That's a good thing. And I still remember that, I remember President Obama, in fact, when he was president, and someone asked him, how do we bring manufacturing back from China to America? And he said it's not possible. And I do remember some leaders in India's parliament as well, when Prime Minister Modi ji talked about Make in India, who stood up and said Make in India will never be possible. And they've both been proven wrong, in America and in India.
I love the way you talk about Rahul Gandhi without naming him. But Milind, let me ask you, how well do you know Trump and his family? Your father, as you said, had great relationships cutting across party lines in the United States. And what would your message to them be?
Well, I know Don Trump Jr., who is President Trump's son. I've had the opportunity to host him a few times in India. I have a relationship with Robert Kennedy Jr. as well, who was standing as an independent and is now supported President Trump. And I think these are people who I know have a great affinity towards India. They have a great affinity towards the Prime Minister. They want India and America ties to deepen. They will obviously fight for what's in their interest. It's ultimately for us to fight for what's in our interest, even when we are discussing bilateral issues with them. But there is a larger partnership that I can see that will deepen, that will expand in the years to come. And so I think it's a good thing for India. I think that sometimes certain pundits who are in the strategic affairs space, they tend to say that one party, maybe Republicans, are better for India as compared to Democrats. I personally believe it's very personality based. Some precedents on the Democratic side have been very good for India. Some precedents on the Republican side have been very good for India. I certainly believe that President Trump means that India has a very strong ally in the Indo-Pacific.
Given the fact that Prime Minister Modi shares a great chemistry with the President Trump, everybody remembers those pictures from Howdy Modi campaign and President Trump coming to India. Do you think in the end India is better placed with Trump as president than if Kamala Harris had made it to the White House?
I wouldn't say so. I really believe that the Indo-US partnership has now moved beyond party A or party B in India or in America. It's moved beyond leader A or leader B in India or America. I remember, Navika, when my late father who was one of the earliest proponents of deeper Indo-US ties in the 80s, a very difficult period when to be an Indian politician who wanted to further strengthen ties with America while also maintaining strong ties with allies like Russia. At that point, people on the American side, my father worked very extensively with a man called Senator Larry Pressler, who initiated the Pressler Amendment, which cancelled almost $5 billion of aid to Pakistan, with a congressman called Stephen Solaris. He was Democrat, Larry Pressler was a Republican, and worked cutting across the aisle. At that time, I remember hearing from my late father, it was very, very difficult to convince Americans why they need to ally with India, why India is a natural ally, a democratic ally. But today, I think that relationship has moved, has transcended politics in both our countries. Both countries now, the people of both countries want the countries to go forward. Americans, I think, have a great affinity for India. Indians have a great affinity for America. And we understand that there is a natural partnership, a natural strategic partnership, a natural political partnership, and most certainly a natural economic and cultural partnership. Just the fact that we are two of the world's largest democracies, America being the oldest, India being the largest, the fact that we have the largest entertainment industry right here in Mumbai. America has a hugely powerful entertainment industry in Hollywood. These are many areas where we can collaborate, cooperate, work together, strengthen people-to-people relations, strengthen government-to-government relations. And I think that regardless of what would have happened in the US elections, the India-US partnership has never been stronger and will only be stronger in the years ahead.
So in the end, Milind, before I let you go, I just want to get a comment from you on the liberal left meltdown that we are noticing globally and very pronounced in India as well with this Trump victory. Your comment.
My comment would be that those who believe they are classical liberals, who believe that they believe in open speech, freedom of speech, open discussion, debates, must reclaim the liberal space from the far left. And I certainly am one of them. That would be my message, whether that classic liberal resides in India or resides in the US. I think the far left should not dictate who or what is a liberal. Classic liberals have a certain belief. As I said, I believe in open criticism of anyone. I believe in allowing people to express themselves very, very freely. And I think these are values which classic liberals must reclaim from the far left. Just as, for instance, people who are center-right try to reclaim from the far right. So that would be my message to people across the world, really. And I think that Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji's win in 2024, a historic third term in India, President Trump's re-election in the US, hopefully will only accelerate and exacerbate that.
Well, thank you very much, Milind Deora, for joining me on Times Now. Clearly, the time for the liberal and so-called fear-mongering that democracy is in danger, the time for that narrative is up. That's the Indian experience. That's now the American experience. How that space in the center right is reclaimed, well, we'll wait and watch. Thank you, Milind.